Some men sail for freedom. He sails for justice, and maybe a little petty revenge. They call him the Admiral, but he ain't commanding no ships, just taking them down. From fake wise guys to clickbait captains, nobody outruns the Iron Fist. He don't play politics. He declares war. He's been banned more times than a Jersey driver in Manhattan, and still comes back like low tide meaner and saltier than before. Admiral Impeach, Iron Fist Reserve. Now he's distilled that same fury into a bottle, aged in oak barrels and bad decisions. Each sip hits harder than a subpoena. Justice ain't blind. She's just ducking me. One shot'll make you brave. Two'll make you bulletproof. 3, you'll start a YouTube war from your couch. Tagline on screen: Admiral Impeach, Iron Fist Reserve. Distilled for legends, bottled for revenge.
Mugs, what the fuck you doing in there, you prick?
The Kansas City Couriers, the Skim, the Cash, the Corpses. How a quiet Midwestern crew controlled the flow of Vegas millions, and who lived long enough to spend it. A Pizzaverse Studios historical crime documentary. Written by Bambi Palermo, narrated by Vincent DiPrio. The men behind the money. Everybody talks about the Vegas Skim. They talk about the counting rooms. They talk about Chicago, New York, Cleveland, the big names, the big bosses. But nobody tells you the truth. The Skim didn't run through Vegas. It didn't even run through Chicago. It ran through Kansas City, through a handful of quiet, blue-collar couriers who nobody paid attention to. Guys who looked like mechanics, like warehouse clerks, like part-time drivers. These men carried millions in unreported casino cash-coded ledgers, orders from the boss's messages between families, and sometimes a body in the trunk. They weren't soldiers. They weren't hitmen. They were the Kansas City Couriers, the arteries of the American Mafia. The men who held the underworld together with envelopes, suitcases, and blood. If money is the lifeblood of organized crime, the Couriers were the heartbeat. This is the story of the Skim, the Cash, the Corpses.
DA's Multi-Purpose Street Solution Kit. Because even gravity knows better than to argue with DA. Let me tell you something about this kid shows up one morning, right? Not a cloud in the sky, birds chirping, everything looking normal. Too normal. And he's holding this brand new product like it's the freaking Ark of the Covenant. Like he's Indiana Jones if Indy was raised in Chicago. Now, what's the product? Oh, nothing crazy. Just Diaz Multi-Purpose Street Solution Kit. I say to him, what the hell does that even mean? And he says, dead serious. Vinny, it does whatever you need it to do. Don't worry about it. Let me tell you something. When a man says don't worry about it like that, you start worrying immediately. The kit comes with a wrench that ain't for cars, tape that definitely ain't for boxes, gloves that suspiciously hide fingerprints, and a booklet titled, If You Know, You Know. The product slogan, DA, he fixes problems permanently. So yeah, if you need a conversation handled, a situation adjusted, or a neighbor who don't mind their own freaking business, persuaded. Daw's your guy. Pizzaverse certified. Quality guaranteed. and absolutely, positively, not legal in any state.
Kansas City, the Mafia's best-kept secret. Kansas City wasn't big, but its influence, massive. The Civella family built an empire out of union control, truck routes, beef distribution, political corruption, Teamsters connections, gambling, and long-haul transportation. Most cities had crews. Kansas City had infrastructure. Their secret weapon, low-profile men who moved without detection. While New York guys were making headlines, Kansas City controlled the highways. And controlling the highways meant controlling everything. The Skim. How money left Vegas without leaving a trace. Here's how the Vegas Skim really worked. Step 1. The count rooms. Vegas casinos run by mob-friendly managers did 2 counts, the official count and the real count. The real count pulled hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions off the books. Step 2. The bagmen. The money was stuffed into suitcases, insulated bags, hollowed-out equipment, crates, courier envelopes. Someone from the Midwest flew in, walked out the back door with a wink, and headed to the airport. Step 3. The multi-state handoff. Depending on heat levels, cash might go straight to KC, stop in Cleveland, detour through St. Louis, ride with a trucker, move in a refrigerated semi, be hidden in Union cargo. Step 4. The Kansas City drop. Money lands at a butcher shop, a union hall, a warehouse office, a backroom bar. Bosses take their cut. Chicago gets theirs. Cleveland gets theirs. Milwaukee gets theirs. Everybody eats. Step 5. The laundry. Finally, the Skim is invested in businesses, laundered through construction, pushed through casinos, loaned to politicians, moved overseas. The casino Skim was a whole damn economy, and the Kansas City Couriers ran the whole network. The Couriers themselves, the real ghosts. These men weren't button men. Most were truck drivers, warehouse workers, meat packers, mechanics, union reps, retired guys with clean records, veterans who never bragged. What made them perfect? No criminal record, no flashy clothes, no girlfriends on the side, no gambling habits. Knew how to drive long distances without attention, could keep their mouths shut, loyal to Civella, invisible to the FBI. They weren't soldiers. They were trusted assets. If a courier got caught, he didn't rat, not because he feared the mob, but because he didn't know enough to rat. He only knew who gave him the suitcase, where to drop it, not much else. Perfect operational security. Sun-grown trichome, the root of all flavor. They said you can't mix science, soil, and swagger. He said, watch me. Meet sun-grown trichome, the philosopher-farmer, the man who turned photosynthesis into profit. He don't chase trends, he cultivates them. Every leaf, a labor of love. Every puff, a little enlightenment. Introducing the root of all flavor, TM. Part art, part hustle, all heart. Hand-harvested, sun-blessed. Guaranteed to make you breathe deeper and think slower. Patience ain't a virtue, it's a process. He's the godfather of the greenhouse, the horticultural Houdini, the man who taught nature how to mind its business. Sun-grown trichome, the root of all flavor. Grown honest, rolled legendary. When money moves, sometimes so do bodies. Couriers didn't just move cash. They moved blackmail documents, drugs, weapons, sensitive messages, and sometimes victims. A man who owed the mob money, he might be escorted back to KC and never arrive. A snitch on the run, pulled off a highway in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska. Case file closed. The couriers weren't hitmen, but they were the cleanup crew. If a killing happened in Cleveland, a KC courier might transport evidence, dispose of clothing, move the body torch, the car prep, a burial site. Some of the deepest, coldest cases in the Midwest are tied to courier operations. The FBI discovers the couriers and panics. The FBI learned about the Kansas City Couriers through wiretaps, airport surveillance informants in Cleveland, Vegas, counting room bugs, Teamsters pension investigations, Kansas City grand jury leaks. FBI memos from 1978 called the Couriers the connective tissue between multiple crime families. Dangerously efficient, unusually disciplined for Midwestern crews, nearly impossible to flip. They weren't wrong. KC couriers were so low profile that agents sometimes followed the wrong guy for months. Violence, the cost of running the Skim. The Skim was worth hundreds of millions. Threats to the Skim were met with disappearances, roadside kills, hotel room accidents, bodies dumped in rural Missouri hunters, finding skeletons, suicides that weren't suicides. The couriers didn't do the killings, but they helped make them vanish. A courier might drive a body to a quarry, pick up a killer from an out-of-town hit, transport a burnt-out car, dispose of a weapon in a different state. They were the logistical backbone of multi-state murder. The downfall, bugs, RICO, and a whole lot of bad luck. Kansas City fell because they bugged the residences, they bugged the cars, they bugged the phones, they bugged the casinos, they bugged the couriers. KC didn't realize the feds had wired half the goddamn Midwest. The Skim got exposed, the couriers got surveilled, the arrests came down hard. And yet, most couriers died old men. They never flipped, they never testified, they never bragged. True ghosts. The Kansas City Couriers weren't bosses, they weren't soldiers, they weren't legends. They were the men who carried the empire on their shoulders. Quiet, reliable, invisible. Without couriers, the mob collapses. No Skim, no cash flow, no messages, no coordination, no Vegas connection. These men weren't in the newspapers, but they ran one of the most powerful criminal systems in American history. The money they moved changed elections, funded casinos, built empires, and buried rivals. The Kansas City Couriers were the heartbeat of the Midwest mob. And the heart stopped beating once the feds finally listened to the walls. This has been another Pizzaverse Studios educational crime documentary written by Bambi Palermo, narrated by your consigliere, Vincent DiPrio, ex-mobster historian of the highways. If you want the truth nobody else will give you, stay here. We ain't done. Coming next, the Highway series continues. Interstate bomb wars, Cleveland versus everybody. Teamster torpedoes, Hoffa's deadliest men. The reefer, reapers, cold trucks, cold bodies. The ghost returns. Ray D'Angelo files 3. Because in the Pizzaverse, sweetheart, we don't tell mob stories. We excavate the machinery behind the empire.